Okay, so this is a quick follow-up to my previous video where I talked about how to arrange our hierarchical tree into something clean and orderly that makes sense and doesn't have a bunch of problematic overlaps and redundancies. So for detached properties, I came up with this because it serves several needs, particularly this one here. This idea of being able to do either a broad or a narrow search as needed. So if you're going to do a broad search, you're going to click this field here, and if you need to narrow it down a little bit, get more specific, then you pick this field here. And that aligns with this principle. However, when I was discussing this, I was doing it primarily from the perspective of doing a search. I wasn't particularly concerned about the listing input process at that time. However, in regards to that, a concern has come up. So let's take a closer look at that. When you're inputting a listing in this tree structure, you're going to start with property subtype, go to structure type, levels, and then architectural style, in that sort of order. And as you can see here, these are dependency lists, so if you pick one of these things here, it will only allow you to pick from this next group, and the other ones will be either grayed out or just not even there at all. And that's the obvious, intuitive way to move through this structure when you're inputting a listing. However, a little bit of a concern has come up, so let's take a quick look at that. When you get to this stage of the listing, the problem is that there's confusion. You don't know what's coming next. You don't know what's coming next in this architectural style field, so you're not sure what to pick when it comes to the levels field. So let's say you're trying to get to a two-story split. Okay, well, where does that belong? For a lot of us, we know where that goes, but a lot of newer agents don't, and some older agents too, don't really know where this belongs. So there's confusion. Okay, let's say you're trying to put in a modified by level. Which field do you pick in the levels field to get there? So that's the problem that's been identified, is this confusion of not knowing what comes next. And it's a valid concern. However, the solution that was proposed was to take these two fields, levels and architectural style, and swap them. Okay, just flip them backwards, just like that. Okay, and what you get now is this sort of upside down, backwards, inverted hierarchy. Okay, hierarchies are supposed to branch out, not branch in, so it's backwards and upside down. Now the point of this is that when you're doing the listing input and you get to this stage, you're just going to pick one of these, and then it's going to automatically autofill into the next field for you. So this technically seems to work, but in a sort of a band-aid workaround way. Like this just rubs me the wrong way.
And what are your feelings about that, Mr. Horse?
No, sir, I don't like it.
Well, I agree with the horse. So rather than taking this clean hierarchical structure and turning it on its head just to accommodate this one concern, I'm here to tell you there's a better way. So let's take a look at that. So instead of doing it in 4 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, instead of doing it that way, when we get to this stage, we're going to jump to both of the next fields at the same time. Okay, they're both going to show up at the same time. Then you're going to pick one of these, and it's going to autofill backwards into this field here. You're doing essentially the same thing as this, but without turning everything upside down. And you get to maintain this nice, clean, hierarchical structure. So what does this look like in practice? Okay, so we're going to do the first 2 steps normally, but then when you get to this stage here, what you're going to see next is a listing input screen that looks something like this. Okay, it's going to have a row of checkboxes down one side, and you pick one. Okay, and what's essentially happening is both of these fields are being picked at the same time with one click. And it's accomplishing the same thing as this, but it's doing so without turning everything upside down. And that's really it. You could stop the video right here. However, there's another concern I want to address with this, and that is the fact that these labels, in this arrangement here, these labels don't make sense now. Okay, and that conflicts with both of these principles here. So this might seem normal. I mean, we've been down in the weeds, us agents and Pillar 9 people, we've been down in the weeds of this system for years and years, and this is more or less what the levels field currently looks like, so it kind of seems normal to us. However, what would a consumer think? Is that normal to them? Okay, and no, to a consumer, obviously, these are levels here, and this stuff over here is architecture. These are backwards. These labels no longer make sense. So let's summarize what I proposed here. The advantages: number 1, you're picking 2 fields with 1 click. Number 2, the labels make sense. And number 3, we've got clarity. Okay, if you're trying to put in a 2-story split, you check one box, there it is, the multi-story thing is already checked for you. Same thing with modified by level or any of these. You're not stuck here at this stage wondering what comes next. Everything's on the screen at one time, and that's the clarity that we need. We get to maintain this nice, clean, hierarchical structure without turning everything upside down. Don't need to do that. So that's basically it right there. that's my proposal. Thanks for watching.